All right, final warning. This is going to have a lot of spoilers. So, what is occurring with Viserys and the orgy? Because that's basically what this entirety of the episode was. It's just Viserys having to make some tough choices and a very prolonged orgy sequence with Rhaenyra and Daemon. Well, let's start off, I think, positive that the joking I didn't think was great with her picking heirs. First, one is too old, one is too young. I thought it was fine. It wasn't great though, and it went on a little bit too long. There's some interesting cameos by the Tullys and some of the other houses. Beric's ancestor, I guess, makes an appearance, so it was kind of fascinating from the book perspective. It went by really quick, so you may not catch this. And there's a lot of fun little backstory with Black Dread. Essentially, that kid is claiming credit for bringing down the houses and allowing the conquest, which clearly is not the case. It was Black Dread. So a lot of interesting little details that they allowed in, but some of them don't really cohere. So when Daemon and Viserys, I guess, reconcile, and he throws down whatever the Crabmaster weapon and says, "Oh, brother, I recognize you as the true monarch." We kind of wonder, well, what's the point? We kind of know Daemon is a liar. He's always going to be positioning himself, but I guess Viserys is in a reconciliatory mood and they embrace and it's over. I kind of felt a little cheap. Like, how did the Triarchy just fall into Daemon's hands? I mean, I get it. He's powerful. He has a dragon. He can be very persuasive with a dragon, but I don't know. It just seemed really not good world building that power passes on so easily. Corlys was a little bit better, and I do like that it was off camera. It would have been nice to have at least a little bit of time with the actor reacting to his power moves, but it was fine. And of course, it's going to get a big payoff in the next episode as Laenor is now going to be Rhaenyra's, I guess, mate, companion, lover, diplomacy solver, whatever we're going to call it. And there's a big twist with Laenor, which I'm not going to spoil entirely, but let's just say there's going to be a lot of complications involved, and they're not entirely political. I'm just going to leave it there. So it was an interesting way that it kind of misdirected us because allegedly she was going to have a free choice to choose whoever she wanted, but it's like, no, you can't. And the revelation is because of the prophecy and the prince that was promised. For those who are a little bit slow, basically the prophecy is gender neutral. It could be a prince, it could be a princess, but allegedly the Targaryens will save the Seven Kingdoms, presumably from the White Walkers. In the books, it's still not entirely clear. In the show, it was basically Dany who decided she was basically the savior, but Jon Snow presented a problem, so they're tying it back into the show. And that's a much bigger discussion of how much of the canon of Game of Thrones is going to remain the story they're going to try to work with or entirely retcon. Because that's one thing I had a kind of problem with this whole episode was where was the suddenly upsurge of sexual ethics coming from? Because correct me if I'm not wrong, but incest is pretty normal with the Targaryens. So why would they care? I understand the lords would care a little bit, but it does seem like an open secret that people do enter into marriage, but they do have affairs. The contract is really just for legal purposes. It's just a formal exercise. So a lot of what the episode is riding on doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Like, why would it really matter if Rhaenyra has sex with another man or another woman and in the process loses her so-called virtue? Why would that matter? It might matter to some of the lords, but all of them? That just seems really weird. I guess it's more of Viserys feels it's a personal slight because he wanted her to take this responsibility more seriously and is offended that she didn't and had her weird sexcapade adventure with Daemon. I'll say one more thing. Like, the way they're using the tunnels also didn't strike me as quite right. Yes, Maegor did construct all these weird tunnels, but they're supposed to be very, very dangerous. You're not supposed to use them because if you don't know where you're going to go, you're going to end up killing yourself. I know in the books, Varys seems to have mastered them. We don't have final confirmation, but I assume Varys does know how to use the tunnels. But Rhaenyra able to use them so easily felt a little bit weird. But let's get to the main event, which is the double bitch slap against Matt Smith and Otto Hightower. But being consistent, the Matt Smith one did make a whole lot of sense. I did like it. I did enjoy it. It's long overdue that Damon actually faced some consequences for his actions, because really he just got exiled with a lot of money, a beautiful woman, and a dragon, which is like, okay, that's not much of an exile, so it didn't mean very much. So him sort of getting properly punished or having to face Viserys much more openly, I thought was very good. And it made sense that Damon would propose that, let me marry Renaria, tie up the plot holes. That ain't gonna happen, at least not yet. But the one with Otto Hightower, which I also enjoyed, and kind of makes me reminiscent of Wanda in Multiverse of Madness getting a few punches to the face, and that was overdue there too. But there I did think it made more sense. Here it kind of didn't quite add up. I mean, we know Otto is a rat. He's always going to have spies. He's always going to be trying to move Viserys to his position. And what Viserys was referencing kind of seemed odd in terms of the 5 days. Yes, we know Otto was being unseemly, but he's known this for a while. Why would this backstory detail matter? He's known for a while Otto is basically out for himself. And Otto is a very good actor, so it's hard to tell if he really cares about the crown or any of these things or just wants to position Alicent to basically be in control. So it kind of felt like, yeah, I liked it. It's enjoyable, but it didn't really add up. It's not a huge hole in the world building, but it did feel kind of just convenient for the plot line of this episode. And that's kind of like the dilemma here. It really just felt like a big zigzag. Like it would have been interesting if Renaria really did have a free choice and they went in a much more chaotic direction. Maybe she doesn't choose Cole. Maybe she doesn't choose Damon. Maybe she just chooses some X factor. But we're just going back into, oh, Laenor, Corlys. We're going to have to reconcile the houses. It did feel odd, though, that Viserys says the House of the Dragon. I mean, technically, Corlys is not a dragon rider. So I don't know. Maybe they're going to promise a baby dragon or something. So overall, good stuff, but it did feel kind of iffy in terms of the particulars. But hey, a lot of good, intense sex. That's always nice. Pretty good dialogue. That's improving a little bit, but it did feel just a little flimsy in terms of the world building. It seems deep, but it doesn't come off as deep as I think the writers intended to.
We were on the verge of greatness. We were this close.